Hello, and welcome to the Allen Press webinar, Popular Initiatives in Scholarly Publishing. I'm Joanna Gillette, Product Marketing Manager at Allen Press, and I'll be your host today. On your screen, you should see some general information about participating in today's webinar. I'm going to go over a few of these items very quickly before we get started. The presenter will be answering questions at the end of the webinar. If you do have questions, please use the chat function of WebEx to direct questions to the webinar host, that's me, during the presentation. We're using voice over IP technology to broadcast the audio for today's webinar, so please make sure you have the volume turned up on your PC if you're having trouble hearing. Voice over IP quality may vary depending on network traffic, so if you are having trouble hearing, please call in to listen to the webinar over our conference line. The toll-free telephone number and participant passcode for the conference line are listed next to the green telephone icon on this slide. If you do call into the conference line, please be sure to mute your telephone. You can continue the conversation with us and your fellow attendees after the webinar using the Discussions tab of the Allen Press Facebook page. Here you can post a comment, share an idea, or ask a question. Of course, also encourage attendees to tweet during and after the event using hashtag APWeb23. Today, Ben Pfeiffer will share a bird's eye view of some of the most popular initiatives in scholarly publishing. He'll consider some of the perceived problems in our industry and share innovative tools and creative solutions for tackling some of these issues. As you may have heard me say before, not every solution is right for every publisher, but I hope this webinar will give you some new options to consider. Ben is the Editorial Services Supervisor at Allen Press. Before joining the company in 2012, Mr. Pfeiffer spent 5 years teaching writing at the university level. He is Allen Press's proofreaders and copy editing coordinators. Okay, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Ben now. Don't forget to send me your questions as you have them.
Thanks, Joanna. Welcome to the Allen Press webinar, Popular Initiatives in Scholarly Publishing. As Joanna mentioned, my name is Ben Pfeiffer, and I'll be taking you through some of these popular initiatives today. To get started, we should define what exactly we mean by a popular initiative. And for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to define that as a response to a perceived problem in the scholarly publishing industry, or an initiative that includes a broad range of ideas on how to solve the problem. Joanna mentioned this is a bird's eye view of popular initiatives. And although we may cover some information that you're already familiar with, we're going to try as well to introduce you to something new and cutting edge. Many people are involved in these initiatives, from universities, individuals, libraries, research organizations, and so as they drive innovation and attempt to accommodate innovation into their existing workflows, I would encourage you to think of initiatives not as monolithic things, but as interconnected and fluid structures to talk about this. There are 6 popular initiatives broadly defined, starting with scientific review, moving on higher education, ImpactStory, Authorship and Identity, Reproducibility, and content management. Our first broadly defined popular initiative is scientific review. And now, one of the perceived problems in the scholarly publishing industry is that there's a lack of transparency in the review process for pre-publication review, and there's not enough reviewers. Journals are often powered by volunteers, and because there's a lack of reviewers, it takes a long time sometimes to get through the process. It could be months or even years. And all tells us that the existing information filters are swamped. The solution would be to reimagine the structure of peer review, talk about pre-publication review as well as post-publication review, and to offer editors, authors, and reviewers some innovative solutions based on new technologies, things that will address these concerns about transparency, increased efficiency, and the streamlined processes. One of the players in this initiative that we're going to talk about is Peerage of Science. They are a new breed of crowdsourced pre-publication review services, and they allow the author to take control of the peer review process by letting the author set deadlines for the 4 stages of the process. The 4 stages are submission and initial peer review, followed by an open peer review in which reviewers comment and view the people who have already reviewed the article, kind of a meta review, if you will. Next, there's revision or withdrawal and final evaluation of the paper. The community of vetted experts at Peerage of Science will take the time to rank papers on a standardized categories and standardized metrics 1 through 5. Some of the categories include things like merit, impact, literature, or the discussion, or things like that. Scores are aggregated, and at the end of this process, the author can choose to accept a publication offer from a participating institution, or they can export the reviews and take them elsewhere to another organization. This should help cut down on duplicate reviews wherein an author submits a paper to what they perceive to be a high journal, and then the next tier, and so on. Another pre-publication peer review system is Rubriq. This is also an independent pre-publication review system. Like Peerage of Science, remains closed with a double-blind system. Like Peerage of Science, it matches expert reviewers to authors. The experts are matched to the papers using their own publication history and a keyword search. The workflow includes a plagiarism check powered by iThenticate, and it also includes an article-to-journal suggestion feature, which helps authors target their papers to specific publication. Reviews are submitted in approximately 1 week, which is a huge improvement on the months or years it can sometimes take to get through peer review. Now Rubriq is in their phase 2 of 3-phase rollout, and the 3rd phase will be a public rollout in all biological and medical fields. The player in the review or scientific review initiative is the Faculty of 1000 Research Journal, F1000 Research, and this is actually a post-publication peer-reviewed journal where an author loads their paper and after a quick check is immediately published online. Peerage of Science and Rubriq, it crowdsources experts who referee in an open environment again. The papers are marked approved, not approved, or approved with reservations, and after a certain number of votes, they're indexed in PubMed. It's completely transparent, completely open. But some of you may be wondering what happens if an article receives only negative reviews, and if that happens the case, the article will then be archived on the F1000 site and will not appear or be indexed in PubMed. Now we're going to move on to the next popular initiative in scholarly publishing, higher education. One of the big problems with higher education is skyrocketing cost of tuition and books and getting access of public funding for higher education, which means that future researchers, future scientists can't get education they need to help further science itself, which of course affects the scholarly publishing industry. Right now, to solve some of these problems, people are talking about massive open online courses, sometimes referred to as MOOCs. And we're going to take a look at some of those services now, both for-profit and non-profit players in this industry. MOOCs are open and free and accessed through the computer, and one of the vast umbrella organizations that is working with massive open online courses right now is edX, and it includes many members, including Harvard and MIT, who are founders, as well as Rice, Cornell, the University of Toronto, Davidson, Boston University, University of California at Berkeley, lots and lots of persistent operations. It's an open source learning platform that can be customized by member institutions for experiments in massive open online courses. And so far, there have been many innovative experiments with classes that are offered. Some of those offered this spring include introduction to biology, electricity and magnetism, and the challenges of global poverty. One of the for-profit players right now in a massive open online course market is Udacity. It was founded on the outgrowth of an experiment at Stanford after Sebastian Thrun and Peter Norvig offered their Introduction to Artificial Intelligence course for free, and 160,000 students enrolled in it. Right now they're partnered with Colorado State University, San Jose State University, and they're offering actual course credits at those institutions for the successful completion of courses powered by Udacity. Now, the challenges of a massive open online course is how to incentivize a student to actually finish the course. And so Udacity is also playing around with the idea of having student mentors. On the other hand, a massive open online course is a lot cheaper to run because there's no dedicated instructor who's assigning homework or grading papers, that kind of thing. So I have partnered with several organizations in the business community at large to offer new courses through their service. And some of those include Google, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Autodesk, Wolfram, which is the maker of the Wolfram Alpha computational engine, and general industry leaders like that. One of those new courses, which is called CS348, Functional Hardware Verification, and is designed by Cadence Design Systems, launched on March 12th of this year. So that's something to look for. Move on, we're going to talk about our third popular initiative, ImpactMetrics. Right now, one of the perceived problems in the industry with ImpactMetrics is that it's an important number. It's traditionally defined, as most of you know, by the impact factor, the journal impact factor, with a proprietary system of calculating how much influence a journal has. It doesn't do article by article, and there's a lack of transparency. The problems with this are fairly obvious. Certain article types are cited more than others. Certain types of science publish quickly, certain types publish slowly. And it's relatively easy to game the system with editorial policy. For example, you could publish a certain article type at the beginning of a year in an effort to give people a long time to cite that. Broadly defined solution, the thing that many people are talking about is alternative metrics or altmetrics, sometimes called article-level metrics. These are often article-based, and they sort of reflect web-native scholarship. They measure things like page views, tweets, blogs, comments, downloads, and other metrics that are easily captured by the journal impact factor. Can also include data sets, computer code, images, video, any other kind of thing, not just an article. We're going to take a look at some of those solution providers. One factor in the initiative to reform the journal impact factor is the San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment, often known as DORA. This was initiated by the American Society for Cell Biology, and basically a statement that challenges the role formally played by the impact factor as a means of evaluating science. It has a list of 18 recommendations for improving the evaluation of published science, and they're grouped roughly around three main themes. Basically, the need to eliminate these journal-based metrics in funding, appointment, and promotion, the need to assess research on its own merits rather than on the basis of what journal it's published in, to capitalize on opportunities provided by online publication. This writing, it was signed by 281 organizations and 7,481 individuals. Another open, not-for-profit player in the altmetrics world is ImpactStory. They're an altmetrics aggregation service funded by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. They're right now in the process of filing not-for-profit status. They try to impact all across the internet from a variety of sources, like the Public Library of Science, some like Crossref, PubMed, 1000, Twitter, Mendeley, Wikipedia even, and ORCID, which we're going to hear about soon. They have an open governance and an open source code. Their data is open to the extent their member organizations allow for that. Now their self-proclaimed mission is to translate the number storm of metrics on the internet into a data-driven story that will show researchers exactly what kind of impact they're happening as close to real time as possible. Metric, not to be confused with altmetrics, the popular initiative, but singular. Altmetric is an online London-based startup founded in 2011. They are also dedicated to tracking online activity around scholarly literature. They have products, the Altmetric Explorer, which you can use to navigate the metrics on their site, but also a bookmarklet that you can use as a button in your taskbar to click if you're reading an article and to see its altmetric score appear. They also offer embeddable badges for authors' web pages or publishers' web pages that include a number. You can see an example here on your screen of what it would look like. It calculates the influence with an algorithm based on three main factors: volume, meaning how many people mention it; sources, meaning that big news story on CNN or a newspaper or something like that will contribute more to the score than a blog post, and a blog post in turn will contribute more than a tweet or several tweets even. It also takes into effect the third factor is the authors, meaning that a journal account that spams the same link over and over again won't be rated as highly as a professional who tweets the link to other professionals, for example, so who authored the content. Right now, Altmetric just announced a 6-month trial with John Wiley and Sons, and they're now prominently displayed on Nature's pages, nature.com, excuse me, and entered into a partnership with Peerage of Science. Lastly, they also became a member of ORCID, which we're going to hear about very soon as part of the next initiative, and they signed the Declaration on Research Assessment, which we just heard about. Authorship Identity is the fourth broadly defined popular initiative, and it deals with several problems, but basically three interconnected ones. The first, authorship tracking, includes things like authorship disputes, but also more mundane things like duplicate records, or author histories, or name-based confusion. It can also be used in conflict of interest reporting. The other problem is plagiarism, and not just the cut and paste plagiarism that has been made so easy by the digital world, but also self-plagiarism, where an author recycles information without telling a journal editor, and you would have no way of catching that. And lastly, predatory open access publishers who have used the rise of gold open access publishing as a means to scam authors and journals. There's a lot of discussion about how to address these kinds of problems, but there are tools out there and there are people out there working on systems that can help. For authorship traceability, many are proposing a global identification system. For plagiarism, there is a technology out there that can catch filth papers. And for predatory journals, many people are talking about a blacklist, but many other people are also talking about a so-called whitelist. And it's pronounced like that, like the Balaur, not ORCID, is the original researcher and contributor identification. It tracks an author the way a digital object identifier tracks an article, but it's for a person. And this is an open, nonprofit, community-based effort to create a global identification system for scholarly publishing. It's implementary right now with CrossRef, that's iThenticate, and with other systems like ImpactStory and altmetrics. Free to individuals who want to sign up for an ORCID. Organizations can pay on a sliding scale to receive more benefits. If an organization does become a member and pay, ORCID allows access to their application programming interface so that you can build a third-party application to draw on that data. It also allows users to become affiliated with organizations, and those organizations can see non-public member data for those affiliated users. An organization could even create and deposit data on behalf of designated employees, students, or individuals. So a very powerful system. Their goal is to be integrated into all of the existing workflows, like map submission systems, data search engines, manuscript citations, and institutional and discipline-specific repositories. Plagiarism, this is a system that's been out there, and it's integrated into most peer review systems, if not all. But it's CrossCheck, it's powered by a web-based system known as iThenticate, and it takes a paper submitted by an editor into the database and checks it against all other known papers. It returns what they call a significant textual overlap report, basically a percentage saying this paper is 37% the same as other papers out there. This can just help journal editors have another tool to see what kind of things are being turned into their office for sorting and publication. The audio book review, something like that's going to have a lot of quoted material in it. Used by the American Institute of Physics, Oxford University Press, and IEEE. And so it's out there, and it's a good tool for editors if you're looking for something to catch plagiarists. The topic in authorship and identity is kind of a controversial one, and it's basically how does the scholarly publishing community combat the rise of predatory open access publishers who use this gold open access model as a way to prey on people. Discussion really got going with Reveal at the University of Colorado, Denver, made what he called a blacklist that listed predatory open access publishers. The alternatives to this that has been since proposed is a list of reputable journals, and in Nature's special issue in March on the Future of Scholarly Publishing, the managing director of the Directory of Open Access Journals in Copenhagen suggested that this kind of industry self-policing would have better results, because when you create a blacklist, you might inadvertently lump in inexperienced journals or journals without connections. You might put them on the same list with scammers, and that would be a problem. Our fifth initiative is reproducibility. Right now, one of the problems in scholarly publishing is that companies and researchers have trouble reproducing experiments. If they can get funding, they can't always get the techniques right. If they can get the techniques right, they can't always publish their results in a high-impact journal, because the focus of science has always, well, at least in recent years, has been on publishing something new, something exciting, that will get a lot of attention. The solution would be to incentivize reproducibility, and that's what people are kind of talking about. Reward researchers who take the time to look at their processes and be careful about the research they're doing. And to give research grants and funding for duplicating studies, the kind of thing that is not much seen. Lastly, you could give research grants. Excuse me. you can give researchers separate publications in high-impact journals or publish them in new kinds of journals that facilitate reproducibility. First, we're going to talk about the Reproducibility Initiative, which is a based initiative launched by Science Exchange, PLOS One, Figshare, and Mendeley in 2012. And the goal is to switch the focus again from novelty to rigor. PLOS One plans to publish validated studies in their own reproducibility collection. Figshare is to make the data sets available through a reproducibility collection, and Mendeley is going to offer their analytics platform for real-time tracking. This exchange, one of the partners for the Reproducibility Initiative, is a for-profit company that's a contract research organization supported by venture capitalists and angel investors. The basis is that a researcher, having completed the initial research, would search for a service, basically search for someone to reduce their experiment. They would compare qualified providers, request an estimate. After choosing a provider, they'd manage their projects and pay the completed work. Science Exchange will make the data sets available to the researcher via Figshare. Then the author can submit their work for publication in the PLOS One reproducibility collection. GO has been around for a while. This is the Journal of Visualized Experiments, but it offers a very interesting way to tackle this problem of reproducibility. Rather than having to read about a new technique, you actually see someone perform it. And that really helps with the time and labor-intensive process of learning a new experimental technique. So though they've been around for a while and are an established PubMed index journal and are peer-reviewed, we thought we'd mention them because seeing someone do something will aid reproducibility and perhaps see more journals of this kind in the future. The final and the most exciting popular initiative in scholarly publishing is content management. Difficulty in content management is exposing audiences to different content on multiple platforms at once with new technologies and bring the data right to where they are. People are designing new tools. They're coming up with programs that deliver the data right to where people are in real time, and there's a lot of interesting things happening now. We're also looking at the interconnectivity, of digital collections, the internet, and they're looking at building on-site interactive tools to display data. Quick word on mobile technology. It's quite expected now, as most people know, to publish on multiple platforms at once, in print, on a smartphone, tablet computers, on the web. And many services exist for people to consume articles wirelessly and digitally. So we thought we'd mention some of these. The e-reader proliferation has led to a sharp increase in people using things like Goodreader, the Kindle platform, or the iTunes platform, or Deep Dive, which is an article rental service, to take articles out of the cloud, off the internet, and bring them to where they are in real time. The Bird Display Wall, also known as the Brody Active Learning and Usability Research Wall, is a very exciting installation at Johns Hopkins University in the Milton S. Eisenhower Library, and it's a collaboration between the library and the Computer Science Department at Johns Hopkins. It's powered by Kinect, which is basically the same kind of technology that would power Xbox in your home, but of course adapted and changed to make it more powerful. It allows users, even multiple users, to interact with image and data sets on a massive scale. And a 25 megapixel display, it runs a framework called the LAIR, or LAIR framework, that was also developed at Johns Hopkins, that lets the library's operating system interact with the Kinect technology. The hardware is dual 6-core Intel processors, as well as 16 gigabytes of memory that can adjust up to 196 gigabytes of memory. A bit trivia, it's named for the Romanian dragon with 12 heads. There are many possible applications for this kind of technology, but the main idea would be to get users physically interacting with it in a specific place. The Digital Public Library of America, which just launched in April 2013, to fulfill the promise of interconnected digital library. Right now, many digital collections exist, but they are not accessible to one another. They're not always searchable in the web at large. Sometimes they're behind paywalls or that kind of thing. And so the Digital Public Library of America aims to bring these member institutions together to create exhibitions just like you would see in a physical museum, except to create them online. There are many participants, including Harvard Library, the National Archives and Records Administration, the New Public Library, and the Smithsonian Institution, as well as many others. You can log on and see many exhibitions already up, and here's some of the titles I pulled down for you. One's called Land is Your Land, Parks and Public Spaces, and another's called Indomitable Spirits, Prohibition in the United States. They all have many other interactive tools on their website, including a timeline that has over 2 million entries on the timeline that you can. And they allow member institutions to interface with their API behind the scenes and to make things like a map application that would return results based on geolocation and HTML5. Augmented reality, which is one of the last things we have to talk about in content management, is a very nascent technology. This is something that is just coming into its own. You can see pictured here 2 screenshots that I took using a tablet computer and Layer, which is the name of the application, and Theodo Light. Augmented reality is defined as overlaying the real world, with virtual information and providing data to them in real time. Right now, augmented reality is still really the playground of marketing and businesses, but there are a lot of applications for scholarly publishers, a lot of opportunities. For example, librarians could put up digital signposts in their stacks to say, this section on World War I, this is the section on World War II, or anything of that nature. In addition, historians could do the same kind of thing around a town. They could put up digital signposts that users to landmarks, battles were, statues, that kind of thing. And so, lastly, a huge potential as we move towards wearable computing. For a researcher in the field to snap a screenshot, you can see by looking at the Theodo Light screenshot that a researcher could, in theory, take a picture and have the longitude, latitude, temperature, sea level, elevation, kind of thing. It's not even inconceivable that something like an ornithologist in the wild could take a picture of a bird, have it uploaded to the database, and compare all the known pictures of that species of bird to look for discrepancies or to see if there's no bird like that on record. So it's very interesting, and it has a lot of potential for researchers and consumers. We've taught today, and we've covered a lot of popular initiatives at a very high level, a bird's view, as we promised. I would like to encourage you all to get out there and to look into some of these organizations that are participating in the future of scholarly publishing and to experiment with the technologies they're offering, because it's a very exciting time to be in our industry. Right, I'm going to turn it back over to Joanna, who's been questions.
Great, thank you, Ben. We do have a couple of folks who have already chatted in questions, and I'll go ahead and answer one of them, which was about the We will, of course, be posting slides and video of today's presentation on our website later this week, and we'll send you an email about that once those are up. Go ahead and continue chat and questions as we go through the Q&A here, but I do have some to start off with. The first question is about peer review. So in the new peer review models, how do authors revise and refine their articles? And if revisions are not part of the workflow, does that potentially diminish the quality of published content?
Great question. In some of the pre-publication review ones that we looked at, like Peerage of Science and Rubriq, is part of the process, and there is even a step, for example, on Peerage Science for a revision or withdrawal or that kind of thing. With Rubriq and with Peerage of Science too, because it's an author would submit their paper to Rubriq before they submitted it to a journal, and so in theory the revision could take place in between the time when they submitted the journal and when they had submitted to Rubriq. So they could say, you can see my Rubriq evaluation, this is what people said, and I've corrected those problems, because it's an independent system.
Yeah, it's kind of a different scenario where instead of the journal saying you have to review, the author gets to sort of decide, do they want to review and resubmit to those services to get a revised review, or do they want to, just revise their paper before they submit it to a publication. So it's a lot more on the author, and it's kind of up to them how they want to handle things. Mm-hmm. So the next question is about MOOCs, or massive online courses. And the question is, how do MOOCs make money?
That's an excellent question. I'm not really sure.
There are some courses where students pay, and obviously, they're open, so no,
they don't pay.
So it's very interesting. I think it's much like some of our open access models, where there's maybe advertising revenue that comes in, or support like Google and some other folks who maybe through their sponsorship are sort of supporting that thing. So that is an excellent question, and one we're going to probably find out more about in the next.
Sure, you're chatting in your answers as we speak. Well, I think that, for example, with something like edX, which is that open source platform that people use to create their own open online course, meaning the member institutions use that software. That was developed by Harvard and MIT, and they, pay for the funding of it. I don't know exactly how to be a revenue stream, right, without tuition, without that kind of thing. And because, it's such a new initiative, I don't know that there's a consensus yet on what should be done.
We have a couple of folks who've chatted in to sort of weigh in on this issue. The first thing is that it's like we're sort of waiting for MOOCs to figure out how they're going to make money. A lot of these startups maybe had initial funding, and so we're going to sort of wait and see how they figure it out. And then Lori also let us know that in order to get credit for a MOOC, sometimes you still have to pay. So depending on the university, then maybe in order for them to actually recognize the MOOC as a course that they need credit for, there may be payment involved there.
So you pay for the credit hours.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for weighing in on that. So the next question is about plagiarism and other misconduct. And the question is, are there resources for societies to help them form policies regarding plagiarism and other author misconduct?
Have any resources like that available right now at hand? I do know that, as you imply, societies come up with their own codes generally. There is COPE, which is the Committee on Publication Ethics, and I can talk a little more about
that. The COPE actually has established best practices for publishers. They have these sort of misconduct workflows that you can download off their website to go through and see, if this occurred, maybe what your next step should be. And so some of those resources are available even for folks who are not COPE members. And then for publishers who do actually become COPE members, they can actually submit cases for review, and the whole, all the other COPE members can kind of take a look at what's happened and give recommendations on how they should proceed. So that would be my recommendation for the first place to start. If you're wondering what you might want to do, what kind of policies you might want to set regarding plagiarism and other misconduct. So that's the Committee for Publication Ethics, Committee on Publication Ethics, and the acronym is COPE. And then Barbara just let us know that CSE also recently released a white paper on ethical issues in scholarly publishing. So that might also be a really helpful place for you to go. Thanks, Barbara. And then the last question that we've received so far, unless anyone is frantically typing at the moment, is how widely is deep dive actually used?
Right now, Deep Dive has over 7,000 leading scholarly journals included as a download or to bring to your device. It has journals from Elsevier, Springer, Nature, IEEE, and many others. So I would say it's pretty widely used. And, Deep Dive came into being before the revolution in tablet computing. And so potentially, with a tablet computer, it's a lot easier to download things out of the cloud and just read them. So.
All right. Well, that appears to be all of our questions for today. So I want to thank Ben and also all of our participants in today's webinar. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation and that you'll spend some time on your own exploring a few of the tools Ben mentioned. As I said before, we will be sending out a brief survey, and that email will also include links to both the slides and video recording of today's session. So please do take a few moments to complete the survey. We're also looking for feedback on how we can improve future webinars, as well as suggestions for future topics. Don't forget, you can continue the conversation on both Facebook and Twitter. That concludes our session for today. Thanks very much for coming.